Joining us on the Fancast today is the General Manager of Footy Operations, Dean Warren. Now, Dean, the season is over as of Saturday. What do you make of season 2013 for the Brisbane Lions?
Yeah, look, I thought we finished the season off nice and strong, and that's what we sort of set ourselves out to do, post the bye mid-year, is to finish out the year strong. And, obviously we knew at that middle part of the year we did have a tough run there of about 8 games playing against, finalists from the year before. And we knew the draw would open up a little bit towards the back end of the year. And pleasingly, the guys performed very, very well. At the back end, and again, the last game against Geelong was an exceptional performance. I thought, well, guys, no one really gave us much of a hope down at Simmons Stadium, but I think the boys last week showed that they've got a lot of heart, and certainly as a group, they're very, very close.
Dean, maybe no use crying over spilt milk, but do you look back at that first half of the year, particularly in light of what you've done in the last 10 weeks, and sort of ask yourselves, what if?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, obviously we had a very good preparation coming into the NEB Cup. I thought our pre-season program was very good. I thought the physical performance or the conditioning of our players now are getting to a very elite standard, and and obviously the preparation to the NAB Cup was great. And then unfortunately we got off to a poor start against the Western Bulldogs in round 1, and it took us a while to recover. There's no doubt we let a few games slip even at home against the Crows, where we were in the game right until time on in the last quarter, as well as even the West Coast at home as well. So there was a couple of games earlier in the year that we got blown away, which was really unfortunate, and there was a couple of closer games at home that we could have potentially won, and as I said, the way it's panned out over the course of the year, if you had one more of those games earlier in the year, or two, we would have been playing finals footy. So that's a little bit disappointing, yeah.
Now, at this time of the year, there's always a lot of talk about list management, and there's been a lot of speculation, I guess, about a few young Lions players. There's a whole bunch of them throughout the year that they might want to return back to their home states. Is this an issue that you guys are currently trying to manage, and re-sign some of them before the trade period approaches?
Yeah, look, it is. I mean, and we'll always have an issue potentially. I mean, it's 87% of our list is from interstate, and that's just the nature of the industry we work in, where a lot of our guys are required to move away from home. They've just finished school and in their 18th year, and then they've have to pack up and pursue their AFL dreams in another state, away from their family and support networks. And we invest significantly in our welfare program. Like Manny Lynch and Alicia Whitelock do a terrific job, but it is a big step for these young guys. And after their first couple of years, as our team progresses and they're not necessarily playing senior footy week in, week out, homesickness is a real issue for us, and real issue for our playing group, and we try to manage it the best we can. But look, there are some guys that even after a couple of years still feel homesick and miss their family and friends. So look, there are challenges there for us, but again, we hope to get the majority of those young guys locked away. I think they're a terrific young group, and certainly we're very keen to re-sign them as quick as we can.
Dean, it's pretty well reported about a couple of those guys, and we don't expect you to provide a commentary on all of them, but just a couple I'm interested in particularly. One of those is Billy Longer. We know that ruckmen take a long time to progress and come on, and he's been an understudy to Matty Leuenberger, who's had such a terrific year. Where's Billy at with the list and I guess his negotiations with the club at the moment?
Yeah, look, Billy's obviously a required player, and you're right, Michael, when you do say the younger guys, certainly the ruckmen, do take a little bit longer to come on, and he's had a pretty good NEFL season, and played a number of senior games, but pleasingly Louis had an outstanding year again, I thought, coming off the back of his Achilles injury last year. And Billy, as a young developing ruckman who needs to be able to also go forward and be dangerous when he goes forward as well, he's still developing, and we're quite pleased with his development. He's one of those ones, and I'll be honest to our members and fans that he is battling a little bit with missing family and friends and those sorts, and so. But look, we're hopeful that Billy will be able to retain Billy, and because as I said, we think he's got a big future, and we'll be working to try to retain him. Yes.
The other player I want to ask about before we can move on to some coaching dramas is Elliot Yeo, who has taken massive strides this year and been a senior regular, really. He's part of the best 22 now.
Yeah, he's been terrific, hasn't he? He's had a bit of a breakout year, Elliot, and certainly he's continued to progress and feel more comfortable at senior level, and he's playing some really good footy.
Yeah, without doubt. Is he another one of those players who's battling a bit of homesickness right now, or are you pretty confident of keeping him?
Oh, no, we're pretty confident we'll retain Elliot, yeah. He's had a terrific year, and, no doubt he's a Western Australian boy, and, his family have been across a fair bit this year. He's one that we would, obviously very confident we'll retain.
In these negotiations, Dean, particularly with the Billies or the maybe not so much Elliot because he has sort of found a home for himself, but maybe the Billies, the Sam Dohertys, these type of guys, how much, when you talk to these fellas, how much do you have to project to them how valuable they are in your next year or two, I suppose, like how soon they'll be playing regular footy? How much does that come into your chats?
Yeah, a fair bit, Michael. Obviously, we look at our list management, we look at it, we try to project it over, a 3 to 4, 5 year period, and we understand, we want to know, from our planning, we sort of we try to project ahead at least 2 or 3 years' time and what the team might look like in 2 or 3 years' time, and certainly they're very much a part of that. So we try to articulate that to them. I think this generation of young person like things immediately, but at times, if you look at our group at the moment, we have got a fairly stable group, and certainly in the back end of the year we've been able to keep our senior group together, and there hasn't been too much change week to week. And ultimately, week to week, there might only be 2 or 3 changes made. So, these guys sometimes just have to bide their time and continue to play very good football in the seconds and wait for their opportunity. We do spend a fair bit of time trying to project forward and articulate to the younger guys on our list that this is where we see them, this is where we see their development, and this is where we see them fitting into the team in the near future. So, we do spend a fair bit of time on that.
Heading into this off-season, has the footy department given a pretty clear directive to the recruitment team to aggressively go out and solve this key forward dilemma?
Yeah, look, unfortunately they don't grow on trees. There's not a lot of exceptional key forwards. Obviously everyone's talking about Boyd in the draft, and he's an exceptional player, but I don't know whether, we'll certainly be looking at what we can do during the trade period to see whether we can put ourselves in a position to have a go at him. But look, if I was GWS, I wouldn't be giving him up either. As I say, they're valuable, and certainly, as I said, they're not dime a dozen. So, if you've got the opportunity to take one. But yes, we will be looking to try to overcome that. And I think the key forward issue that we've got, as well as trying to improve and add to our midfield depth, are the 2 key things that we'll be looking to try to achieve through this year's trade period and our draft.
I'm with you, Dean. I wouldn't be giving him up either if I was GWS.
I think they're mad if they do. I think, as I say, I know they've got a few there already in Cameron and Jonathan Patton, but, I think with someone of his exceptional talent, but I would be keeping him and then looking at how their list unfolds over the next couple of years, I wouldn't be giving it up.
We're talking about the list, the retention of players here and potential trading and whatnot of players. How difficult is that at the moment when you guys are still trying to find yourselves a coach? How difficult are you finding that?
Yeah, look, I don't think it's got a massive bearing. I think our playing group realise that, we'll be doing everything we can in the coaching process to find the very best coach available, and I think they realise we'll do that, and their role is to play, and the coach will coach. So I think once we identify the right candidate for our role and our position, I'm sure the players will just get about preparing as best they possibly can. They've been in the last couple of days doing their reviews and getting their post-season programs, so their focus will squarely be on making sure that they come back in very, very good condition to ensure that they impress the new coach when they do get back from their annual leave period. So, I think they'll be just focused on taking another step forward compared to where we've gone this year. I think obviously 10 wins last year and 10 wins this year is probably a reasonable result for our group, but again, we expect our group to progress, and play finals footy next year, and obviously be trying to over the coming years play regular finals footy, and that's what we're certainly striving to do.
On that coaching situation, can you provide the fans with any kind of update at all as to where that process is currently at?
Yeah, well, we've obviously, the panel was established a couple of weeks ago, and I think we've pulled together a terrific panel with a lot of experience, both with Peter Swab, who's the AFL Director of Coaching and former coach of Hawthorn, on that panel, as well as obviously Lee Matthews, who our fans certainly realise is obviously a three-time premiership coach at our footy club and an enormous experience, as well as Paul Armstrong from the AFL Coaches Association. So they're the external people on our panel, as well as myself, Malcolm Holmes, our CEO, and Brett Burton, our physical performance manager, will be sitting on the panel as well. So I think we've established a very good panel of both internal and external expertise, and obviously we've been working on shortlisting a number of candidates, and we'll start interviewing people over the next week or so.
Can you just tell us how that works, Dean? Is it a matter of you guys headhunting the guys that you want, or is it a matter of people coming to you, or is it a little bit of both?
A little bit of both, Michael. Certainly we've done a lot of due diligence of who's in the market. We understand through, we know which coaches are at which clubs. We talk to quite a number of people in the industry to get a really good gauge on how they're developing as coaches. Certainly those up and coming coaches that are current assistant coaches who are aspiring to be senior coaches. We just do a lot of work and a lot of due diligence on how they're progressing within their clubs and the road they've gone down. And obviously there's a few experienced coaches out there as well that have coached senior football before, and we know what their reputation's like, and we just monitor how they've gone since they've coached and what roles they've fulfilled since then. So, but we just talk to as many people as we can and try to do as much due diligence as we can. And obviously there's an interview process where we will, that'll form just one part of it, but it is a lot of checking and talking to people in the industry.
There was a report in the Career Mail a few weeks ago now that the club had decided to go down a path of a succession model similar to what Collingwood did with Mick Malthouse and Nathan Buckley, and what GWS have just done with Kevin Sheedy and Leon Cameron, with an experienced coach coaching for a few years and then handing over to a senior assistant. Is this something you guys are committed to, or was this just one option you're exploring?
No, I think it's just one option that we'll consider. I think we'll go through our process and we'll have a very thorough process and interview the very best candidates available, and we'll keep an open mind on what structure or model we might put in place through that process. But ultimately we're looking for the very best senior coach available in the current pool, and then we'll look at what options we've got once we go through the process. But no, we're certainly not locking ourselves into one particular model. Ultimately we're looking for the very best senior coach available and the best fit for our club.
I guess in saying that, Dean, I guess the way most people, certainly I have looked at it, is there's sort of two baskets of potential coaches, isn't there? There's those ones that have got experience and that have proven themselves against those that haven't had an opportunity yet and are a sort of senior assistant coaches. You've had Vossi was the most recent coach and he was unproven. What would lead you to consider sort of unproven coaches again? Is there a risk in doing that, do you think?
Well, I think when we say unproven, I mean a lot of the coaches that are you may consider who are current assistants have been in the AFL system in a coaching role for in the majority of the ones we'll look at 4 years or more. So they've had a really good apprenticeship, working in some cases in very successful clubs, very successful environments, and have been exposed to very, very good clubs, very good environments, cultures, and I think it's not as if these guys haven't done their apprenticeship as coaches. I think a lot of them work extremely hard, even when in some of the guys' cases, even when they were still playing, a lot of guys probably have aspirations of coaching post their careers and start putting things in place even while they're still playing, and then they move into the assistant coaching roles, and they're preparing for a senior role for a long time. So Michael was a little bit different, obviously, where Vossi finished playing and was involved with the AFL Academy for a year or so, but didn't choose to actually do an apprenticeship. So, but with that said, obviously the opportunity to coach his club popped up at that particular time, and he took that on. So, I think the guys we'll be looking at will certainly would have had a lot of experience working in an elite AFL club environment as a coach. Yes, maybe not the senior coach, but certainly as an assistant coach, and have had the opportunity to prepare themselves appropriately to take on a senior role.
Without giving any names away, which we of course wouldn't expect you to do, can you give us a ballpark figure of how many candidates you currently have narrowed the shortlist down to at all?
Yeah, look, there's 5 or 6 there that we'll certainly be talking to over the next number of weeks. As I said, the process will take, we'd certainly hope the process is completed by the end of September, certainly the first week of October before the free agency and trade period starts. But out of respect for the various candidates, I won't name any names. But look, there's probably there's a list of 4 to 6 coaches that we'll be talking to.
So just to get the time frame right here, Dan, you'll sort of look to do that next week, but start the interviewing next week with the hope of having.
We'll actually start some talking to some people this week, and with the hope to obviously have it narrowed down over the next couple of weeks and leading into hopefully a final decision being made, towards the end of September, early October. But with that said, though, we don't want to rush the process. We want to make sure the process is very rigorous, and we do a lot of due diligence on the various candidates, as well as going through an interview process with quite a number of them as well. So it'll take as long as it takes, but we're hopeful to have it completed by the end of September.
2 of the leading candidates for the job, Rodney Eade first off ruled himself out on Friday night by accepting a new position with Collingwood, and Paul Ruse has it's been quite publicised that he's ruled himself out as well for family reasons. Have those 2 ruling themselves out been a bit of a hit to you guys as the panel, or have you not been too fussed by that and still think that the quality's really out there?
Yeah, well, I think there's enough quality out there. I think, certainly Paul Ruse, as it's been well documented on our club website over the last number of weeks, after discussions with Paul, he basically informed us that for family reasons he wouldn't move to Brisbane, but it sounds like at the moment he might be a pretty big chance to take on the Melbourne role. I know his parents live in Melbourne, and for family reasons, I think if he was going to move away from Sydney, it would be to Melbourne, and that looks like it's going to be the case now. And when I was speaking to Rodney Eade, obviously. He's looking at taking on that director of football's role at Collingwood. So he thought, look, that's the role that's got some certainty there for him at the moment. And if he went through a process, with either us or Melbourne, and it's not a certainty, and he's a very good role that Collingwood are offering. And I think Collingwood's timeline was trying to get that role in place as soon as they could. So, obviously Rodney's gone for the role that was a certainty for him, and that they offered it to him. So, so you can understand that, whether he's got ongoing employment at Collingwood in a very good role, and he's accepted that. So,
Dean, you touched on the selection panel earlier in the interview here, and obviously the guy that's got a stack of credibility across the entire league is Lee Matthews, and obviously very well, accepted by the Brisbane fans. How much role has Lee had in trying to seek out a coach, and how much role will he play in helping you guys to decide?
Well, Lee's on the panel, so he'll have a major role to play in selecting the candidate or nominate, obviously recommending the preferred candidates to the board. So, Lee will have a major role in that as a panel member. But to have Lee's experience and knowledge on the panel is invaluable, and we're very appreciative that Angus Johnson, our current chairman, is very happy for Lee to be on that panel, and so is Lee, because I think everyone understands that the selection of the senior coach is a critical appointment, and that even though we have got some governance issues going on at the moment at board level, I think ultimately to have Lee on the panel has been exceptional, and I'm sure Lee will contribute. He's very much engaged in the process, so hopefully over the next few weeks we'll find the right candidate for us, for our club.
There's obviously a number of assistant coaches at the club too whose futures are a little bit in limbo at the moment, as always is the case with a senior coaching change. Are you going to look at filling any of those roles or securing any of your coaches to longer contracts before the senior coach, or are you going to give that control to him?
Look, we won't. That'll be to be determined over the next few weeks. But I'm certainly in constant contact with our current assistant coaches that will be out of contract, who are out of contract at the end of this year. But we'll work through the process over the next couple of weeks, and then look to give some of those guys that are out of contract a little bit more surety, or at least a better understanding of their position over the next few weeks.
How's the last couple of weeks impacted on you, Dean? Obviously, you've got an important role at the club as it is, being the GM of footy operations, but now the coaching issues cropped up. How much busier has it made the last month for you?
It's certainly been a busy month, but look, ultimately the club decided not to renew Michael's contract for next year, and no one will ever underestimate the legacy and the impact that Michael's had in this football club as a player and as a coach. But the decision was made to move in a different direction, to take this club forward. And I suppose as the GM of footy, I've got to get on with making sure that becomes a reality and that we continue to improve as a club, both on and off the field. And I'm very confident that we'll be able to do that over the next couple of years. And it has been busy, but again, that's my role, and it's a very busy time of the year. People may think that the season's now finished, but it's a very, very busy and critical time of the year for us, as I say, with trying to find a new coach, as well as obviously moving into the trade period and free agency, as well as the draft coming up in November.
Do you think that decision on Michael's future was made with other coaches, particularly Paul Ruse, in mind, or was it a more open-minded decision, simply because there has been a lot of media talk that it was a ruse or bust kind of decision now?
No, not at all. That's certainly not the case. The decision not to renew Michael's contract had nothing to do with Paul Ruse. It was a decision that was made. As I said, Michael had been the coach for the last 5 years, and the decision was made to move in a different direction, and that's it. So it wasn't a ruse. That's a nonsensical approach. So that certainly wasn't the case.
I guess, Dean, the whichever coach you end up with, there. I know people were very quite passionate when Michael Voss was had his contract not renewed, and people were quite passionate about who was going to come in and who wasn't going to come in. I guess ultimately they'll be judged early next year, won't they? I guess the first sort of 6 or 10 rounds of next year, people might change their tune quite quickly depending on who you get and what the results are.
Oh, I think that's right, Michael. I mean, we understand that in our state, in our market in particular, that to be successful off the ground, you need to be successful on the ground. And, ultimately a coach with profile, whilst it's some component of it, ultimately we're looking for a very, very good coach that can take this group forward and win more football games. And, once we can start doing that, I think our on and off field progress will be quite rapid. So, it's, as I say, it's making sure that we get the very best person in place out of the list of candidates that we will interview and talk to. But ultimately, it'll be over the course of the next 1 to 2 years that decision will be judged, I suppose.
Thanks for joining us on the Fancast today. I know you have a pretty hefty few weeks ahead of you in selecting the next coach, along with the rest of the panel. All the best for that, and hopefully you get a really good guy for the club going forward.
Thanks very much, guys. Ta.